Hello and welcome to another really exciting Classroom in a Book tutorial. This is InDesign CC 2021 and this is chapter 4, which is all about working with objects. This one is not a short lesson. It will be broken up into multiple parts. We do have a lot of moving pieces in this one. It really does go through kind of the bare bones of how to use InDesign altogether. So let's go ahead and get started in InDesign. Let's go to our file and open. Go to our lesson 4. And grab that start file. We're going to skip this layers part at the beginning and say open. We're going to do a file, save as, and we're going to put it as first initial, last name, underscore, InDesign, Classroom in a Book, chapter 4, and make sure it's in our chapter 4 folder and say save. So we are good to go there. And let's go ahead and make sure we're in our advanced workspace. So let's go to our workspace and let's say reset advanced. So it's going to go back to everything how it normally looks when it first starts. All right, so you're going to see that we've got a few things going on. We've got some errors. We've got quite a few different elements. Let's go ahead and open up that end file as well so you can kind of see what we are going to be developing. So you can see we're going to be playing with some text here. We're going to add an arrow. We're going to make some compound paths. We're going to learn how to make some text, how to flip some stuff around, how to add some colors, how to bend this. We're also going to play with some text on a path and using the align tool to create some elements. We're going to do some text wrapping. We're going to do some more text on a path here, change some images. So there are a lot of moving parts to this one. So just take it a little bit at a time. If something's not working, just stop, go to the next thing, and then go back. It's the easiest way to do that. If you're looking at the book, there's this thing part that says introducing layers. We're going to go ahead and skip those parts. We're going to go ahead and jump into that when it comes into working in the files itself. So we're going to go ahead and start on page 93 on this working with layers. And layers allow us to create documents with, let's call them, pieces of glass stacked one on top of the other. So the top of the sandwich that's close to you is the top layer, and the glass at the bottom is the bottom of the sandwich. So let's take a look at these layers, of my layers. So I've got one called graphics and one called text. So within text, I can see I've got all these different elements, and within graphics. So as a organized designer, it really works in your favor to use these layers to make sure that you can turn things on and off, make some things easier to grab, makes especially with more complex designs. So for this one, we're going to go ahead and we can look at our text layer. Let's go ahead and turn our eyeball off. We can see everything that's on that text layer. Then we turn our eyeball back on, and it's going to tell us everything that's on that. So when you can't figure out where you're at, sometimes looking at those elements can work really well. So let's go ahead and look at this bleeding heart right here as a flower. And I'm going to do a Control+ and zoom in a few times. And if I go ahead and zoom in with my selection tool, I can tell that this element right now is on the text layer. So I wouldn't necessarily want it to be on a text layer. It's really a graphic. So how do I move it? Well, first thing, it's really hard to see. So if I want to make it a little bit easier to see, let's go ahead and double click on this text layer. And instead of making the outline blue, let's go ahead and make it, let's make it dark blue instead. So now the layer is dark blue. So each of these layers has its own color, so it kind of helps you figure out where things are. So in order to move this from one to another, I don't have to try and lift it. All I have to do is take this item and drag it straight up in my layer. And now, see how it turned red? That now is now on the graphics layer. So if I turn off graphics, it's going to turn off there. So it's just a good thing to remember as you're working with different layers. Sometimes you're trying to do something, it's locked, something's not working. That's usually a good chance of what is going on. So let's go ahead and click on the box next to the graphics and let's lock them. So now anything on graphics I cannot grab, I cannot move. So let's do a window, a view, a fit spread in window. So we can see both sides side by side. And now we're going to go ahead and create a new layer. Now you'll notice because it's locked, I now have this little anti-pen, so I can't draw on that layer. So I'm going to go to the bottom of my layers panel, and I'm going to go to my create new layer. It's a little plus button. And because I was on graphics before, it's automatically going to stack that layer on top. I'm going to double click and let's call it background. And it can be light blue, that's fine. Let's say okay. Let's do Control S and save what we've got so far. And now we're going to change our layer stack. We want background clear to be on the back. So I'm going to grab background and just drag it straight down. So now I've got graphics on top, text, then background. Now I need to actually put some items onto the background. So what am I going to put on there? I'm going to grab my selection tool and grab this green box that's on here. I want that to be background. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that in to my background. I'm going to grab this image on page 1 and drag that into background. And I want to grab these two as well. So I take my selection tool and drag across, and I can shift drag both of them at the same time. So it's a really nice way to grab multiple items. And let's go ahead and grab both of those and bring them down. So now if I look in my background, I should be able to see, if I turn it off, everything that went into it. So I totally got that right, and we're good to go. Let's do a Control S and save. And let's go ahead and collapse that layer and go ahead and lock it so we don't move anything around. Now the next thing we're going to do is start to add some text frames to our elements. So let's look at our pages. And our pages lets us see, okay, we've got page 1, page 4, 2, and 3. That's because when you print this on a flat piece of paper, page 4, which is the back, ends up being the outside side of the paper. So I know it's kind of an interesting, weird thing to kind of think about. So let's go ahead and go into our layers and make sure we're on text because we want to be able to write on that one. And we're going to go here onto our page, and we're going to go ahead and add a type box. So let's grab our text tool. And let's grab a text box and add it right in here. And in here, we're going to go ahead and write the word featured. It's really small right now, so we're going to play with that in a minute. And instead of return, I want to shift enter, which is a soft line break or forced line break, and blossoms. Now, just as we did in chapter 2, we're going to play with some of those styles. So I'm going to use my selection, select the style here, and I'm going to go here to my paragraph styles. And I want to go ahead and grab the one called Right Flush Title. So right here. So now you can see because we've already created those styles, they're ready to go. It moved it over, it moved it up. It's totally perfect and what we want to do. We can hit escape and let's hit outside on the pasteboard to make sure we don't have any selected. Let's do Control minus. And we want to fit this box so that it's not quite so big. So if you double click on this middle box, it's going to automatically fit that box to the height. So that way it makes it a little bit cleaner as you are doing things. It makes it a lot easier as you are designing to kind of keep those text boxes clean, to keep them